So running away is easy. It's the living that's hard. What do we got here? Let me link this stream in the spots where we link it at, which is LRH, fucking Sally. Wait, I'm already in Sally. Let me link it in LRH. Yeah, by the way, if you know me in real life, don't go looking for my radio career. That shit ain't gonna make no sense to you. I tell everybody that, but they don't listen. So you listen. What do we got here? Okay, so pop in. Live editing stream right here. SPACETARDS. All right, and then let me hit a few of these discords with it real quick. Gonna hit the JRE Discord. Hell yeah. Gonna hit the Real Politics Discord. I'm gonna hit my Discord. Time moves slow when you're on your own, waiting to pick up the phone. All right. Enough of that. Oh, so Saturday morning, and I'm a little bit late today. I didn't get to bed until like 3 in the morning, and I only slept for about 3 hours. Y'all know how it is. It's just a little too much. But anyhow, we got to edit the thing anyhow. We're going to try to get one chapter done today. We're a little bit more than halfway through this story right now there. So if you haven't checked in before, this is a story about SPACETARDS. And SPACETARDS are tardigrade augmented recon demolition scavengers or salvagers. And what they're there for is to explore these strange alien crafts which emit a radiation that's disabling to like all electronics and stuff. All right, hold on, let me open up the chat now that people are talking. So I took him down. Wants to hear about TARDs, but he has to go to work. I feel your pain. It's a shame you got to work on a Saturday, but somebody's got to do it. I'm glad. I mean, I'm essentially working right now. This ain't easy, being sleazy right there. Yeah, sorry if we're a little bit late here getting a start on this thing. I just didn't get to bed until like 3 in the morning. We did a long show last night, and then I stayed up watching The Sopranos. The first episode is not good. I had forgotten that Dr. Melfi was the wife from Goodfellas, which I had just watched like the first half of recently. I like to watch the first half of Goodfellas and then not watch the second half where Henry Hill gets his comeuppance. So you can always watch the, eventually we're going to put together a playlist of all these things. And when this is done editing, we'll put out the full version of this guy. But yeah, SPACETARDS. Yeah, there just may not be that many people up for editing this morning, which means it'll be quiet and I can fucking concentrate. But then my brains are scrambled because I'm hungover. So you can't win. You can't win. But I digress. So yeah, I guess even though there's nobody here, let's keep up with this tradition. Shout out to this shirt, by the way, sent to us by a Zach ZYZ fan from Mexico. Like, look at these guys. Oh, I'm fucking loving it right there. I even put on pants for y'all. I hope you give a shit. All right, what do we have here? Running away is easy. It's the living that's hard. All right, what do we got here? Uno. Dos. Tres. Ooh. God damn. God damn, look at what has come upon us right here. Lord, have mercy on me. Okay, so it's very seldom that we'll get a triple draw from one suit. So, this is a relatively easy one to interpret. Right here we have Charity, the Moneyed Elite, and then the Ace of Pentacles, which means the beginning of a new money-making scheme. So this spread is clearly all about money. So today, one thing that's been on a lot of people's minds with this coronavirus nonsense going around is they're looking for a way to help out other people. I've been talking about it. My friends are talking about it. Recently, I was talking about the illegals in New York, like illegal, undocumented aliens, whatever you want to call these people, people who can't go to the cops and can't collect unemployment. And I've been like seriously wondering what's what and how it's going to go. So I've been trying to think of a way that I can be of assistance. And I've talked with other people and they're just like, yeah, I wish I could fucking do something other than just hang out in my house. Because we don't like to be passive in the face of a problem. And this suit is not about being passive. It's about building things. It's about material interaction with the world right here. So the past is that desire to help right there. The present is more of a, this guy is more in stasis. The fours are usually about things remaining as they are. So this dude is hanging on to his Bitcoin for all he's worth. His Bitcoin is over his head all the time. In his thoughts, he's clutching it against his heart. And even the ground that he walks on, he's insulated from reality by his Bitcoins. That's me right now, at present. And then we look to the future, which is that today there's a chance to think of a new kind of money-making endeavor, which is exciting to me because, like, I'm, perpetually fucking broke. So just watch out, all y'all out there today. If you have an idea that just springs on you out of nowhere, because that's what the aces are about. They're about spontaneous generation of ideas and concepts and motions and so forth. If you have a spontaneous idea that you think could make a little bit of money today, chase that motherfucker, because today might be the day. Or should I say, chase that otter chucker in the parlance of the SPACETARDS. I love those SPACETARDS. They're so real. Okay, so let's give a little summary of what's happened thus far. So basically, just to go into it, the Marines, the Space Marines that you see in the story, are tardigrade augmented recon demolition salvagers. These are especially genetically engineered and created group of Marines who are meant to explore what are called whales. Whales are these alien spacecraft. They're usually like jet black. They're covered with this material where if you try to fool with it, about half the time it'll blow up and blow up everything for like 10 parsecs. And they find ways to get into these whales, which are just humming with a special kind of radiation, which in the story we call Herald radiation. And that radiation is intensely disabling to electronics and advanced technology and so forth. So all the equipment that these TARDs use is analog. Like they have air tanks and they fly over in like a literal chemical rocket powered spacecraft, similar to the spacecraft that we have today. They're operating things with like pulleys and cranks. It's not steampunk. I think steampunk is horseshit. But basically so far it's been an exercise in how do they explore an alien Hulk where nothing really makes sense to them, where everything is dangerous, and how do they do it? But hopefully it's okay. I can always revert to the master recording. But yeah, I don't like that. I don't like to see that light going red all the fucking time. I don't know what's up with our internet connection, but everybody is having a hard time right here and now. So what else we got here? Yeah, I think it's about time. If you have any questions about the story, let me know. As always, I'm gonna take a gander at your suggestions and so forth, but I can't promise that I'll implement all of them. And a lot of the times, if I'm focusing hard on fixing a really shitty paragraph or something like that, it'll take me a little bit to get to your suggestion. And I think the guy that was like overwhelming us with dubious suggestions yesterday is gone today. But usually I don't have that problem. Usually people are pretty chill. And if you want to know more about me or about my writing, like I have 5 or 6 books that are available. You can read totally for free on my website, zachzyz.com. I don't make any real money to speak of from writing. So if you feel like subscribing on Patreon or something like that, it just helps pay for editing and coffee, essentially, at this point. And yeah, also I do fucking podcasts and whatever. You know, I'm like a pig. I'll eat anything. All right, here we go. Gunny spot. Oh, and the protocol that we do this is I'm going to read every word in the story. The reason why we're doing this is because reading something aloud engages a different part of your brain than just reading it subvocally. Not subvocally, but you know what I mean. Reading it without subvocalizing. And this allows me to pick out some things that I normally wouldn't see because I'm not a stellar editor. All right, what do we got here? First, I want to shout out to coconut water. One of the greatest ways to deal with being hungover as fuck. That's my favorite kind. This taste nirvana. All right. Down in the hole. Gunny spotted the trouble right away. "Member," Gunny shouted. "Heads up." Member clapped the rudder shut and looked up. One of the glass strands had wormed out of the tangle and snaked across the air. Okay, there's no comma there. One of the glass strands had wormed out of the tangle and snaked across the air, questing towards the back of Member's helmet. Member's herald was all done in sepia hues, an elephant's skull with thick Art Nouveau outlines, beneath a golden marquee of Gothic letters that read "Memento Mori." Oh, all right, so that's too much. Questing towards the back of Member's helmet. Member's helmet herald. Running away is easy. It's the living that's hard. Okay. So Ryan the Southerner asks a question here. He says, would it be wise to get 2 editors if I wanted to take writing seriously as a side career that I wanted to start out in my teenage years? All right. Well, I can give you some advice on this one. Not on starting from like a much older age. One is that you don't really need an editor for like the first year or two because almost everything that you put out is going to be dog shit. So we'll go into that with that expectation. Just realize that like writing is much like playing a violin, and your initial efforts are going to be intensely painful to other people. So rather than an editor, like by all means, if you are in a sexual relationship with a professional editor, take their advice and just don't argue with them. Just fucking listen. But if you don't have one of those at hand, if you don't have a close friend who is an editor or something like that, what you want to get involved in is a writing group where they use the Clarion method, and you'll have one of those if you're in a major city. If not, there are online Clarion groups where you can you basically pay for the service by critiquing other people's stuff. Just one thing to keep in mind about the Clarion method: it is the blind leading the blind. So it is, the onus is on you to discriminate between good feedback and not good feedback. You know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely. If you want to start off, one, I want you to be like fairly clear about what your goals are. If you want to write a book, set your word count max at about 50,000 words, because more than that, and you're just putting out something that you won't be able to publish. So aim to be under 50,000 words for your first novel if you want to go novel length. If you want to work on short stories, try to hit the 6,000 to 8,000 word mark, and definitely do a lot of reading in the magazines that you want to sell to, because there's not really a point commercially of writing short stories that you can't get published, and like most people want that ego boost of being published, so that's the way to be successful in that. So Ryan the Southerner says, I can't do that during quarantine. You absolutely can. All the writing groups that I know of are holding sessions online. And nothing about editing needs to be done in person. Like we're editing right now across vast distances of time and space. So here are the steps that I would take for somebody who wants to get involved in writing and they're not currently a writer. Number one is establishing your writing practice. Right, this is the most important part of writing. You might notice that, like as hungover as I am right now, I'm still here, and it's because I am incapable of not being here. I have gone out and written or edited so many times, day after day, that literally, like I tried to get back to sleep this morning and I couldn't fucking do it because every cell in my body is like, hey, asshole, aren't you supposed to be doing something right now? Like, fuck. It's inescapable. And now that I'm here, I'm happy I'm fucking here. You know, I love editing and I'm glad I'm doing something productive instead of just the devil creeping into my brain and whispering ideas the whole time that I'm asleep. Never sleep, kids. But most critical to you is going to be establishing a writing practice. And I will tell you, it does not matter what you write for the first month, for the first year, maybe even for the first several years that you're working on it. What matters is getting words on paper. And the way that I tell people to accomplish this is I really recommend, if you can, start out writing longhand. And I'll tell you why, because when you're writing longhand in a like mead composition book or on the back of an unconscious prostitute with ketchup, you are going to be less inclined to go back and edit what you've written. And editing is something that you can learn later. You can learn editing at any time in your life. You can always get better at it, but it's not an art form in the way that writing is, where writing has like this very specific requirement that you be in a state of flow to get your best creative work out. Editing does not have that requirement. And the writing is much harder to do, and it takes much longer to output anything of value. So what we're focusing on is writing initially. So I tell everybody that you need to give it an hour every day. And that hour, it's helpful if it's the same time every day. Everybody has a time of the day where they're most creative and most like, for me, it's like early in the morning, right when I wake up. So you need to take that time where you're most creative and make sure that you're sitting somewhere where there are no fucking distractions, as much as you can get. You know, I don't know if you got to build a fucking blanket fort to keep your worthless children from squabbling at you, or if you have to sequester yourself in a basement, or whatever you have to do at this point to get other people away. You want to be far away from the internet. You don't want to have your phone with you. You don't want to have fucking a thesaurus or anything. Just that empty notebook and write for that 1 hour. And at the end of the hour, you can go away. If you can't write anything during that time, it's fine. Just stare at the paper. And by staring at that paper and not doing anything fucking else, you will put yourself into a state where you'll just find that it becomes easier. And every day you go out there, it becomes easier to do it a little bit more. After you've been writing for that way for a little bit, and you're used to it, and you're developing those hand muscles and everything like that, eventually you can bring a computer into the mix. You'll know when the timing is right. And if you keep up with that practice of writing every day, and just putting something out there, and not like pinning your hopes on having like a bestseller in your first fucking second, and so forth, at the end of about a year or 2 years, you'll start putting out things that other people will want to read. Not a lot of other people, because people don't read any longer, for the most part, but some people. And you'll start to put out things that you're proud of, right? But strap in, because you have another 10 years or so of improving before you become strong enough, I think, to be a commercially successful writer. And it's going to take a lot of luck and work in any case. But those are the steps. And I will tell you that the first couple years of doing this are not particularly enjoyable. It's a lot like being a nightclub comic, where you just have to get out there on the stage and fucking bomb over and over and over again. And it's one thing for me to say this shit and be like, yeah, that's funny and so forth, but actually experience it, having these beautiful ideas that you want to put into form, and you're like a child scribbling on the side of an Acura with crayons, is rough. And you know, maybe you're a better writer than I am, and your progress will be easier. Certainly, I was too lazy for the first several years that I didn't have enough consistency. But now, I will tell you that there's a point, probably about 2 or 3 years in, where every day of doing this is just your favorite thing of the day. It's the greatest joy that any person can have. And I sit here, I've been writing since I was 9 years old, and like doing it really, really seriously, like going out every day for, it's got to be at least 6 or 7 years right now. And it's the best part of my life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I can't not do it. I'm happy when I'm doing it. I'm unhappy when I'm not doing it. Some days after I'm done fucking writing here on stream, I'm just like, oh, all right, well, that's done. I can't wait till I can go to sleep and fucking do this again. So that's the info. That's how you do the work. All right, what do we got here? Let me see. Appreciate the advice. I'm not the creative type because all of my creativity has been drained down to just My Little Pony fan fiction, which won't do any good for me if I can't think of any original ideas for a book when I'm so used to writing fan fiction. Well, so here's another idea. Like, it's better to write well than to write originally, right? And nothing is truly original when all is said and done. A lot of the things that are really original in a book that will really stick with people aren't the things that you like so carefully plot out and that you really desire when you start writing the book. They're things that will surprise even you. Because if it's surprising to you as the writer, it's going to be surprising to the reader because nobody was expecting this shit. And they'll come with like that flow state. It really is. If you've done any like serious meditation or examination of like things that have a Zen aspect to it, it really is that kind of a state where the real work is getting done. And if it's not there, the reader can fucking tell. So don't worry too much about ideas. You don't have to be original. You can write in other people's styles. You can just shamelessly steal anything that you want to have. If you think fucking Equestria is amazing, you can write fan fiction during that time. You can write any kind of shit that you want during your first 2 or 3 years. Be as selfish as you want. And your first novel is going to come out. It's going to be a book that's just for you. And nobody else is going to like it. Like some people will like it, but it's not going to sell well because it's going to be so much for you. And it's the later stages of writing that are about thinking what other people want. And that's where you need to start getting into working with an editor. And where, like in my particular case, like having one strong editor relationship is so fruitful. So yeah, like the nice thing about writing is it's totally free to you for the first 2 or 3 years. And the only time where you need to start spending money on putting out your work is where you have work that's good enough that it should be self-published on Amazon. And that's where you need to start paying an editor, which is around, you know, if you can put out something that's about as good as Survival Mode, it's time to start paying for an editor and putting it out there. And Survival Mode was like, it's fun, but it's not the greatest thing ever. It's just like it's like what you're looking for is a decent story that makes people happy when they read it and they want to read more. And they'll tell you about it. That you'll know. They're like, hey, this is actually pretty fucking good, right? And they won't not. So some other things to tell young writers and so forth. One, you are not entitled to readers. Your friends do not owe you reading your fucking book. People on Facebook do not have to read. Like anybody who sits down and stares at paper and hallucinates on your behalf is doing you a huge fucking favor. And anybody who's like, I just don't like it, I think you should change this or that, all you got to say to those people is, hey, thank you for the suggestions. I'll definitely think about that. You don't have to implement their shit, but the people who are trying to be nice to you and critique or they're mad with something that you've done, think about what they're saying. But if you don't think that they're right, maybe they're not. You know, you don't have to implement their bullshit. And don't fucking spam your shit elsewhere. I know like I try to only link this show places where I think people will actually enjoy it. Don't spam your shit. Don't be an asshole about this whole thing. Like there are a lot of people out there who are real pushy with their books and doing all kinds of nonsense, fucking blog spam, book tour nonsense and so forth. You can do that if you want, but I think it's bullshit. I think you should try to come by your readers honestly. I think you should be as nice to them as you can. And be thankful for anybody that's reading your work. Beneath the skull was golden art. Oh yeah, does it say skill? Okay, cool. Ample and bulging spheres of great concentrated warmth. Hell yeah. I think a rat died somewhere in my fucking malodorous brownstone. I'm gonna. That's what I get to do after this, is spend the day hunting up for a rat. You might notice that there is no blaring car alarm. I wonder what happened to that person's fucking vehicle. In the dead of the night, when a certain radio host might have been 5 beers deep. We may never know. Okay. So let's get to it. I love the members Helmet Herald. So yeah, I went back and watched Astartes 5 the other night. I didn't realize that the first ones were so short. So it's literally like about 10 minutes total of this thing. The last one is about 7 minutes long and like maybe 2 minutes of fucking outro and flashback and stuff like that. But Astartes, really, really dope. If you enjoyed Warhammer stuff or like the idea of Space Marines and so forth, this is a fan-made animation that's just been trending really hard on YouTube right now. And it's just badass. It's just some guy fucking cooked this up in Cinema 4D or Blender or something like that. And he has a really neat plot line. There isn't a bunch of bullshit dialogue in it. It's just fucking Space Marines zapping motherfuckers and weird eldritch shit. And that's one of the things that's really interesting about Warhammer, has always been the intersection of kind of gothic horror type darkness. Their tagline is, "In the grim darkness of the future, there is only war." And that's the tone that they set for their entire piece, even though they have some fucking ludicrous nonsense like cybernetic undead and fucking space orcs up in there. But I digress. So let's get back to it. Member clapped the rudder shut and looked up. One of the glass strands had wormed out of the tangle. It should have been a tangle because there are many tangles. And it should be a glass strand. Mm-hmm. Like a viper, it was questing. I don't like. The tube moved with intent, questing towards the gesture. Oh, yeah. It should be pointed finger. Oh, no. Following the line of Gunny's pointing finger. We're doing like something like that right there. The tube moved with intent, questing towards the insignia painted on the back of Member's helmet. Member's helmet herald was an elephant's skull with thick Art Nouveau outlines, all done in sepia hues. Beneath the skull was a golden arc of Gothic letters that read "Memento Mori." That's one of my favorite. I love their like helmet descriptions there. So like, yeah, if you don't know what a memento mori is, it's basically like just saying, by the way, don't forget you're gonna die. It's one of the oldest trolls in history. It's just like a continual reminder, like, by the way, you're gonna die. And people would graffiti these everywhere. It's like, hey, by the way, the stove is on. Think about your breathing. It's just like an ancient troll. But there we go. Gunny watched Member's eyes focus on the strand. The spellbound. It had been questing towards the insignia on the back of Member's helmet. So here, what we're doing, we have a problem with the reality of the situation right here, where Gunny is like somehow simultaneously like watching the look in his eyes and seeing the fucking um, herald on the back of his head. So we're just changing that up a little bit. So he's like, we're starting with Gunny seeing the back of his helmet, and then he's wheeling around towards the sound of his voice, and then we can get away from that bullshit like pointing line. Gunny watched Member's eyes focus on the strand. There was a spellbound look in the mission recorder's eyes. So more what we want here is not him focusing on the strand, but Gunny watched Member flinch as he noticed the strand. No, that it was better previously, yeah. Gunny watched Member's eyes as they focused on the strand. So we use the mission recorder's eyes twice here. That's not so good. Gunny watched Member focus on the strand. Yeah. There was a spellbound look in the mission recorder's eyes as they focused on the strand. Member had been mesmerized by the serpentine motion. The tendril reared like a viper. The end of the tube came to a triangular point. Yeah. Yeah, no wonder. Yeah, this had felt like a weak section to me, and now I see why. Just the mechanics of the way that everything is explained are not stellar here. That's why we're working so hard on this right here. Mm. Mm. Okay. So Member clapped the rudder shut and wheeled towards the sound of Gunny's voice. A glass strand had wormed out from the tangle of tubes lining the walls and snaked across the air above the sightline of the platoon. Its end. Cool. Gunny didn't like the look of it. Its end came to a sharp triangular point. Gunny didn't like the look of the strand. Its end came to a sharp triangular point, and it was moving with intent, questing towards the insignia on the back of Member's helmet. There we go. The tube ended in a sharp triangular point, and it was moving with intent. Cool. Better. Can a point be triangular? Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me explain. Like, take a gander at this motherfucker right here. See this D4 right here? That's a triangular point that you're looking at right there. And I think they actually make some syringes that have triangular points for some fucking reason. But yeah, absolutely. What you're looking at. So there may be a better way to say it, like a three-sided talon or something like that. But yeah, if triangular point doesn't track to anybody else there, let me know. Because I think we just say the word triangle too many fucking times in the story. All right, let's triangular point, projectile point, early triangular projectile point. Huh. Picos region. Oh, they're about arrowheads. Neat. Medium to large triangular point. Let's see. Three-sided point. Turn a three-sided bowl. 3 edges and 3 vertices. A spalted maple three-sided bowl. What's a tetrahedron? Oh, I didn't know that. Huh. Tetrahedron is a three-dimensional case, 3 simplex. Analysis methods for multi-spacecraft data. Selecting a regular. Okay, yeah, we're getting into too much. Shout outs to Pound Not Math on Freenode. Whew. I mean, we could call it like a sharp tetrahedron point there. If I call it a three-sided point, I think people are visualizing like a talon or something like that. Triangular pointed end towards the insignia. Huh. The tube ended in a sharp three-faced triangular point. Well, he wouldn't be able to tell it was sharp from. So yeah, we do have like a little bit of tense disparity right here. Gunny didn't like the look of the strand. The tube ended in a three-faced triangular point, and it moved with intent, questing towards the insignia on the back of Member's helmet. Yeah, let's. I think that's improved, but let's not spend all fucking day on this. Member's helmet herald was an elephant's skull with a thick. Member's helmet herald was an elephant's skull with thick Art Nouveau outlines, all done in sepia hues. Beneath the skull was a golden arc of Gothic letters that read "Memento Mori." So in the printing, like one of the things that I might do is for the short story part of this. Okay, so let's actually make this a note. Okay, so what I want to do here, and this is sometimes I add notes for things that I want to do in the production of books, because I'm also going to be doing the layout and interior design and so forth. So I would like to potentially have, hold on, this one. Okay, just had to tell somebody they're important. What do we got here? All right, so hopefully that fixes what you didn't like in there. But I think it would be awesome if we like hire like somebody who can like do shit in like that kind of janky tattoo art. Like a tattoo artist that's like good and their line work is good and everything, but this nigga definitely flunked out of art school. You know what I'm saying? So let's try to find somebody like that who will on the cheap do like for $100 or something like that, do 12 different sketches of like okay-ish quality. Like that would be kind of fucking hot right there. I would throw $100 at that. Maybe I don't think I can have a $200 budget for this thing. I could draw them myself, honestly. But they would look real janky if I tried to do this. Huh. Oh, well, I got a lot of time here. I've been thinking, like, what if I learned to actually draw and put some time into it? The same way that I'm putting time into this. I don't know. Maybe I would be spreading myself too thin. But there are a few things that would be kind of useful for it. I'm going to think on her right there. Honestly, I'm just looking for an excuse to buy a new iPad. They look fancy. There was a spellbound look in the mission recorder's eyes as they focused on the strand. Member was mesmerized. The serpentine motion was mesmerizing. The tendril reared like a viper. Oh, yeah. All right, so let's take a look at this paragraph. There was a spellbound look in the mission recorder's eyes as they focused on the strand. Mesmerized by the serpentine motion. The faces of its point were peeling back 3 ways like a banana. So I hate that banana is banana like kind of takes us into slapstick land for a second there. But when you think about things peeling back 3 ways, like kind of like the sandworms in fucking I guess Dune, or in Beetlejuice or whatever. There aren't a lot of good corollaries there, so I don't like using banana there. But I think it's reasonable that that's how the tards would perceive it. So that's what we're stuck in. If you have a better idea, I'd like to hear it. Member, duck, Gunny bellowed, seeing the Marine was deered. Seeing the mission recorder was deered. Member hit the deck, his suit clanked. Member hit the deck, clanging against the triangular grid underfoot. Yeah, we don't need underfoot. The glass tube followed him, still pointed dead at his helmet. Oh, jit, Member cried, twisting to get out of the way. The pitch of the whistle was increasing. They were about to find out very soon if they were under the silane combustion threshold. Grab that chucker. Squeeze it shut, Gunny ordered. Yanked through his sledge aside. Yeah. We need to add a tether to the pommel of Yank's fucking hammer. Okay, which means that we have to go way the fuck back. Okay, so we're at page 67. I think it's Command Shift G. What the fuck? Well, that does something. All right, so maybe it's Command Control G. Yeah, there we go. So here, Command Control G. Let's go back to page 1, and then let's look for Yank. All right, we don't want to do a find and replace. There we go. Okay. Let's go to the point where he gets blasted into the side of the thing. Let's we actually, there's not a good place to add that, so Command Control G. Where are we at? 66. Mm-hmm. Ooh, there we go. So yeah, we could have solved that problem in like 2 words instead of like leapfrogging all over the fucking place trying to. Yeah, I gotta not. I gotta not have 5 beers nights before I want to edit. This is like so much more difficult. Don't ask me why, man. Not enjoying how much harder this is than it probably needs to be. But I think we're still making okay progress here. Oh, Jit, member cried. So that should definitely be. Grab that chucker. Squeeze it shut, Gunny ordered. Yank let his hammer drop to dangle at his side. And Yank strained to hold on. Okay, so grab that chucker. Squeeze it shut, Gunny ordered. Yank let his hammer drop. It dangled from his. Yank let his hammer drop. It dangled from the tether on his wrist. He lurched forward and grabbed the tube, trying. The strand writhed in his gauntlet, whipping its point back and forth as Yank struggled to hold on. "Too strong, Gunny!" Yank shouted. Gunny could see his face reddening through his visor. Somehow the fragile-looking tube was stronger than the hammerman. Already made that edit. Synchronicity. Hell yeah. Makes me feel like I'm fucking figuring it out here. "Too strong, Gunny," Yank shouted. Gunny could see his face reddening through his visor. Somehow the fragile-looking tube was stronger than the hammerman. "Point it away from us, at the disc." "Aye, aye, Gunny." They could see Yank straining with all his might to keep it. Mm-hmm. Yank gripped the tube in both hands, trying to pull it out of him, but he had nothing to brace against. The strand punched through Yank's visor as neatly as a hypodermic needle and penetrated his skull. Blood spattered the inside of his visor as the tube protruded from between his eyes. The whistle became a scream, and the blue light shot through the tube and flared brilliantly. Yank's. Yank's scream joined the whistle, and then both faded away. Lefty was trying to pull Yank free, but he was locked in. Yank had stopped struggling, but his eyes were still moving, darting towards Gunny. "Yank! Status!" Gunny bellowed. There was a tube jammed between his eyes and silane spilling into his helmet, but Gunny had seen Tards survive worse. Blood was pouring into Yank's eyes. He was blinking them, straining to see his sergeant. His mouth gulped open. "Gunny!" "Hang on, Yank," Gunny shouted. 3 Marines were trying to pull Yank free, but he was stuck fast, the strand's 3 petals had unfolded inside his skull. "I can see everything," Yank gasped, and then he was choking on silane. His eyes rolled up and his body began to convulse. The whites of his eyes were suddenly burning blue, and then he was too bright to look at. They were clicking visor shade. Then he was too bright to look at. The Marines instinctively clicked down their visor shades to block the blinding light. Blue flames spilled from the hole in Yank's helmet, building into a howling column of cerulean that melted his faceplate. And all right, so I can see everything, Yank gasped. Then he was choking on silane. His eyes rolled up and his body began to convulse. The whites of his eyes were suddenly burning blue, and then he was too bright to look at. The Marines instinctively clicked. The other Marines instinctively clicked down their visor shades to block the blinding light. Blue flames spilled from the hole in Yank's helmet, building into a howling column of cerulean that melted his faceplate. Yank was dumped onto the grate, burned beyond recognition. It was a bad way to go. Miraculously, the silane didn't ignite. Everything around Yank's body was dusted with that white, snowy material. His suit was oddly deflated. When they turned it over, there was only his powder-coated skull inside, a triangular hole punched through his heavy brow. The weird blue flame had burned up everything inside, had burned up everything but his skeleton. The weird blue flame had burned up Yank's flesh but left his skeleton. Jit-eating Geist, Gunny spat. The shaft walls were writhing and alive now. Three stand... Uh... Gunny had to get them out of the shaft as fast as he could. That's better. Heaves, you're Hammerman. Sticky, you're on Crow. Get us out. Okay, so... Jet-eating Geist, Gunny spat. The shaft walls were writhing and alive now. 3 more strands had moved. Gunny had to get his Marines out of the shaft as fast as he could. Heaths, you're Hammerman. Sticky, you're on Crow. Get us out. Yank's hammer was still dangling from his arm. Okay, so Yank's arm hung limply through the grid. The sledge was dangling from it at the end of its tether. Yeah, uh... Heaths reeled in the hammer and unclipped the tether. He dashed for the door. Whew. Yeah, this is the work right here. Coming in all bleary, fucking trying to make a bet through the disc. Then he was blasted back by a rush of gas that immediately turned into blinding fog. Yeah, so the hammer is attached to his forearm by a tether, so he doesn't lose grip of it as he's like swinging it around and so forth. We established that a little bit earlier. Uh, Yeah, like there's now like a fog machine fucking going. The tubes wanted Member. 3 of them were tracking him. Member tried to dash away, but oh no. Oh no. Fucking beach balling. There we go. That's never a good sign. Oh, who dares to summon me? Well, that's gonna have to wait until we're done editing. Though I do love being summoned. Let's go back to that. Yeah, Command S. Yeah, yeah, every time. I'm fucking beach balling. Thank God for iCloud right here, because this machine's gonna die. I mean, we're all. Oh wow! Oh wow! The bulge is. Hold on, let me see how. Yeah, we bulging. Real talk. That's. I should probably just buy another fucking battery, but I'm just gonna take a different one from the stack in June. Shout outs to warm ample bulges. Warm ample bulges sounds like something that somebody would offer you two of at McDonald's to your order, and you'd be like, "What the fuck? No." Would you like to add 2 warm ample budges to your order for only 99 cents? Like, suck a dick. I've got a tweet about that somewhere. Yeah, I think they will replace it for free, but like you'd have to go to fucking Apple at this point right there. All their stores are closed. I don't even like going to the Apple store there. Although I have some love for this machine, which has been like a solid workhorse. We had it all gravid on this fucking machine right here. Like an entire novel of race memory is in this keyboard. So shout outs to that. That was a ton of work. And thank you again to Spathy Wall and everybody else who was part of that. All right, let's try this. Yank's arm hung limply through the grid. The sledge was dangling from it at the end of its tether. All right, I like that a little bit better. So, Yank's arm hung limply through the grid. The sledge was dangling at the end of its tether. Heaps undid the clip and reeled up the sledge. Then he dashed for the door just ahead of a strand. Yeah, I like that better. Then he dashed for the door, nearly tripping over a strand that shot between his legs. Yeah, I like that. That's better. You know, like because we're not all focused on them shooting for their helmets there. Uh, I like it. Hell yeah. Okay. Whew. I'm getting dizzy over here. Gotta stop drinking. All right, what do we got here? With 5 desperate strikes, Heaves punched through the disc. Uh, okay. Heaves undid the clip and reeled up the sledge. Then he dashed for the door, nearly tripping over a strand that shot between his legs. With 5 desperate strikes, Heaves punched through the disc. Then he was blasted back by a rush of gas that immediately turned into a... Uh, Sticky was going... Okay, I like this. Marines were crowding towards the disc as the fog billowed around them. Gunny could only hope the mixture wasn't corrosive. Sticky was going wild with the crowbar. Well, Sticky was going wild with the crowbar, frantically widening the hole. The tubes wanted member. 3 points were tracking him. I like stalking better. The three strands poised to strike, but a rookie named Bickles leapt in front of Member and took the hit. Well, let's make that filthy. Filthy was lanced by three. Okay. The strands poised to strike, but Filthy leapt in front of. Okay, cool. The tubes wanted Member. 3 flared points were stalking them. Member tried to dash towards the disc, but he missed a step and his boot went through the grid. The strands were ready to strike, but a moment before they hit, Filthy left in front of Member and took the hit. The strands were poised to attack, but the moment they struck, Filthy leapt in front of Member. And took the hits. Gunny was rushing forward. Whew. Okay. Um, there was a tritone as 3 sparks whistled closer. They hit Filthy simultaneously, and he... The whistling grew louder. 3 sparks hit Filthy simultaneously, and he exploded in a tricolored column of witch fire, blue, red, and violet. Member out first, Gunny shouted, grabbing Member and... Mm-hmm. Member out first, Gunny shouted. He's ordering there. Shoving Member towards the breach. The Marines picked Member up and stuffed him through the breach. Bonzo was jettisoned through the breach next. One by one, the Marines escaped while the others swung around tools and rifles like clubs, trying to keep the tubes at bay. An unusually wide Marine named Sipper Swung around tools and rifles like... Yeah, it does feel awkward. I agree. Let me see. Marines were clubbing at the strands with the butts of their rifles, trying to buy others time to escape. Hell yeah. Oh, shit. So shoutouts to Tamanor277. That's a new viewer joining us from Twitch. Hey, this is our 5th day of editing this science fiction story called SPACETARDS. It's about a group of Marines that have been augmented with tardigrade DNA, and they're exploring an irradiated alien Hulk. So, yeah, I'm Zach ZYZ. I think my website scrolls from time to time in the chat or whatever. But yeah, I'm a science fiction writer. I've got 5 books out and many more to come. So enjoy. We're doing this editing live on Twitch and YouTube and some other spots there. And if you see anything that looks janky to you, just let me know and I may implement your suggestion. You can also have, fucking ask stuff about writing. Okay, so Tamanor has been in the stream. Drill him in the back off the head. I don't like drill him in the back of the head. Yeah, it's been a while. Okay, yeah. I don't. I'm sorry that I don't remember. Hopefully you weren't like just trolling us the entire time. But yeah, if I spoke with you, remind me a little bit. Were you like the Chinese guy that clued me into something, or same stream, different novel? Yeah, I can't remember what we chatted about, if anything. Mm. Yeah, I remember somebody was trying to clue me into a Chinese poet, but I don't know if Tamanor was that guy. Different novel. Yeah, the last one, Grab It. So we completed that one. If you want to read it, it's on zachzyz.com/gravid. Came out pretty fucking good, to tell you the truth. But I don't think, yeah, that one was Gravid 4 months ago. No, I think we started streaming Gravid in like early February, maybe like we did on January 1st. So yeah, I guess that is 4 months now. Wow, holy crow. I can barely remember. It's been so long. But yeah, I don't think anybody, but maybe like Spaethiwa has read Gravid at all. That's why I don't think like Sirius said that he read the entire thing, but not one of my friends has read it. Nobody was able to complete it. Even my old editor was just like, this is too fucking sad for me. So we may have to rewrite Gravid with a more sympathetic protagonist at some point. God, can you imagine fucking having to do that? Awful. I don't think I can sell Gravid. I think something like 15 or 20 agents have taken a hard pass on that novel. Ugh, it's a heartbreaker. It's killing me inside. But, you know, here we are. We got to press on with SPACETARDS. Oh, did the Gravid edit stream start in early? No, because December was when I took the whole month of December off. And no, you're right. I took the month of. That's right. We finished. That's right, because we finished on November 1st, so it was December of 2019, and it went on until February. So it took us 3 months to. Oh shoot, we got somebody on Periscope here, Dorothy Joy, Panganaban, which might be Thai or Pangana. Is that Filipino? In whatever case, like welcome to the stream right here. Yeah, we're editing a short science fiction piece. It's about 20, it's almost 30,000 words at this point, called SPACETARDS. And I'm a science fiction writer. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I've been at this for decades at this point here. And I just really enjoy editing on stream with my homies early every morning. So I like... Oh, why do we get like 5 different spammed things from Streamlabs at one time in every single bot channel? That's wild. I'll never know. But yeah, like honestly, like I hope you guys are enjoying this jazz, and like feel free to hit me up with, if you're a viewer of the stream, you can ask me questions about your own editing and so forth. We have all the time in the world right now to work on stories. So like now is the fucking time. Absolutely get at this. It is a great time to be a writer because you can go places without ever getting your fat ass out of your seat. I want to start a book. How would I approach it? Right there. Okay. Well, the first question would be, have you ever written a book before? If it's like a second or a third book, I can give you a little advice there. If you have never, ever written a book before, which I'm gonna go, because if you had written a book before, you probably wouldn't ask me that question. You'd already know how to start a book. So what I generally recommend for people is for them to write up the characters that they want to have in the book. Make like a little character sheet for each of, try to have like at least 3 characters that you think are important to you. If you already know like a bunch of characters and so forth, you can make a sheet for each of them. But the things that you want to have with your characters It's just like a D&D character sheet. You want to talk about where they're from. You want to talk about what they're doing right now, what skills they have, the things that they like and do not like. And most importantly, you want to talk about their motivation in the novel. Like the most important thing for a character in a novel is that they have to want something. And that wanting something can just be like they want to stay alive. Like if you look at Gunny, he's the character of this story. He wants to do a few things. He wants to survive in this crazy environment. He wants to get on whales and explore them. He finds it fascinating. And he wants to burn things with his flamethrower. Those are the three things. And he doesn't want his Marines to die. So like those are four pretty strong motivations. He wants his Marines not to chuck up. He wants to burn things with his flamethrower. He wants to explore alien whales, and he wants to not die. So those are the four motivating forces driving this character to explore these whales and so forth. And hopefully they come through pretty strongly in here. But yeah, make up character sheets for your first three characters. Some people like to outline their entire plot and have an idea of where everything's going to go and like slot everything into it and so forth. I don't fucking do that. I like to surprise myself and just come up with stuff on the fly every day. But it's a much slower way to write than outlining and plotting and having an idea of what you want to do. It's just more fun to me. But yeah, the place to start is your characters, always and truly. Like the point of view is the most important thing about the story. A story is much more about whose eyes we're seeing it through than the things that happen in the story or anything else. That's what readers are really going to care about. So if you have strong characters, you can get away with a shitty plot and piss poor description and so forth. Without strong characters, you have nothing. So try that out. Mm-hmm. Gunny was the last one out. The widest Marine in the unit, Sipper, had gotten stuck in the breach ahead of him. As Sipper struggled to worm his way through, as the spark began whistling towards them, Gunny booted Sipper in the ass as hard as he could. I think, I don't know. Like, is ass even considered profanity at this point? So we're trying to do this book without any profanity whatsoever. So we could consider changing ass out for Uh, like I would think that the let me see. They'd probably have their own fucking tard lingo for an ass. Maybe they call it the donk or something like that. Um, so I'm gonna stick with booted him in the ass, but it's something that I want to consider whether or not we want to include the word ass here because thematically we've been avoiding swear words with specialized tard lingo this entire time. Ass as in asshole is profanity. What about arse? Is that profanity? Well, let's check out thesaurus.com. Booted. I kind of like posterior right there. I actually like the sound of it. As a spark began whistling towards them, Gunny applied his boot to Stepper's posterior with all the force he could muster. He crashed into some featured Marine who was peeping at him, holding out a hand. Out of the way, chucker! Gunny bellowed, scrambling to get distance from the tubes. He had to triage Sipper right away. The wound wasn't bad, but there was saline in his suit and he was choking to death. Gunny cranked the pressure on. Booted him in the buck. I like the application of boot to posterior. Yeah, I like the sound of it. I just, most of my books are just chock full of fucking curse words, and most of my speech is chock full of curse words. And it's actually like super fun to not be able to curse in a book that's full of space marines. Ah, wonderful. I'm enjoying it. And like that's one of the things that's um, I got to tell you, it's restrictions so frequently when you have like unlimited creative freedom. You just can't do this and can't do that. Really, like a lot of what drives creativity is dealing with restrictions. So definitely, as you're setting out to like if you're making a song or really anything at all, try telling yourself like one or two things that you can't do in it, and you'll really often find that some really neat creative stuff comes out of not being able to do something that you normally would. Oh, nothing like restriction. I mean, like everybody who's ever been in a long-term relationship knows that uh, this is where I was about to go. We can't go there on the stream, but y'all know what I'm saying. Except you don't know what I'm saying. Anyhow, out of the way, Chucker! Gunny bellowed, scrambling to get distance from the tubes. He had to triage Sipper right away. The wound wasn't bad, but there was silane in his suit, and Sipper was choking to death. There was silane in Sipper's suit, and he was choking to death. Gunny got behind him. When Sipper could breathe again, Gunny hit his puncture with suit seal foam. You with us, Sipper? Gunny asked, shaking him by the shoulders. How bad, Gunny? Sipper rasped. His voice was wrecked. Bones is broke. Gotta do your jackin' with your left one, Sips. You heard him, Lefty, Sipper joked, clamping his other hand on the wound to keep pressure on it like Gunny showed him. Chuck off, Rabbit, Lefty shouted from across the teardrop. Gunny let out a huff of relief. He didn't have to really worry about a tard until they stopped clowning around. Suit seal foam was packed full of coagulants and meds. Sipper wouldn't bleed out. But Sipper had lost most of a tank. But Sipper had lost most of his first tank purging his suit. His air would run out first. Gunny looked back at the breach. The tubes were still there, closing their trifold mouths and jabbing forward with their points. They looked hungry to Gunny. They looked hungry. Looking past them, he could see the whole shaft was alive. Sparks were dropping 3 at a time in arpeggiated notes that were coming much faster than before. The fog was getting thick. The sparks looked like lightning flickering in a thunderstorm. Guess we woke it up, Gunny said, raising his voice to be heard over the sound of the thrumming gas pumps underfoot. This was another teardrop-shaped room. Machinery underfoot. This was another teardrop-shaped room. This was another teardrop-shaped room, almost an exact copy of the first chamber. Whatever this one was dumping out wasn't silane. Oh, yeah, I'll agree with that. Gunny moved to follow, but his head was bashed forward from behind and his helmet was suddenly ringing like a bell. A tube had struck him in the back of the head, but the WAP plate had saved him. Bless the comm that invented those. Gunny drove through the breach, millimeters ahead of a darting tube. He crashed into some featured Marine who was peeping in at him, holding out a hand. Out of the way, Chucker. Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's big improvement there, Spathy. Yeah, good. Some good fucking edits from Spathy Wah today. Putting it out there. Mm. Can we get away in crackling? Let's look at exactly what sheen means. I don't think we can use sheen there. I only had one whiskey last night and I'm running on fumes. I am kind of running on. I'm glad you can tell. Like, I'm obviously. I don't think. Yeah, it's more like layers. Everything the mist touched was frosted with glassy powder. With glassy powder, Marines were brushing it off of themselves. Sticky and Heafs were pretty well dusted with it. Fortunately, their visors hadn't been fouled too badly. Gunny was about to order Sticky to test the new air, but Sticky already had a rot out. But No reading, Gunny. Gunny should be capitalized. That raised an eyebrow. Gunny tried to remember if the rods had ever turned up nothing before. It's all frosted up, Sticky complained, trying to scrape the material off his rod with his gauntlet. Platoon, against that disc, go, Gunny ordered, and at once there was a bustle of Marines hustling to square up with their backs against the far disc. Why are we standing here, Gunny? Heaves asked. If that jit gets on your visor, it'll blind you, Gunny said, scowling. Gunny hated smudges on his visor. He kept his crystal clear. The idea of trying to explore this whale through a haze of weird, unmelting ice he couldn't get off made his shoulders hunch. Patina. Huh. All too awkward to use. I agree 100%. You know what I'm saying? Like where you pull like this thin skin of ice. You know what I've used before is integument. I think we use that in Gravid somewhere. Yeah, you know what I'm talking. We're gonna leave it at thin crackling layers for right now. I would like to get through this chapter. The idea of trying to explore the idea of trying to find a way out of the whale through a haze of weird, unmelting ice he couldn't get off. The idea of trying to find a way out of the whale through a haze of weird, unmelting ice made his shoulders hunch. Gunny let out a huff of relief. God, how far back is that? Yeah, thank you for the reminder. Why are we standing here, Gunny? Ooh, that comma feels so wrong to me right there. So Gunny let out a huff of relief. Where is he letting out this huff of relief? Yep, there it is. Yep. I don't know if the comma matter. I'm just gonna go with it. It's something that the proofreader will check. Whatever reservoir was feeding this room sputtered out, and the thrumming underfoot ceased. The lights were going wild in the shaft. Now it was a nightmare maelstrom of flashing lightning and writhing tendrils in a continual swirl of thick white fog. Oh, this. It had become a nightmarish maelstrom of flashing lightning and writhing tendrils. Gas was sucking into the breach with a mournful howl, and there was a hiss of piblet. Like waves freezing as they lapped against the shore. Bias towards British writing. Yeah, let's go with British. They were here first. So here is a tough piece of writing right here, because in this simile, waves freezing as they lapped against the shore. If you have ever been to a shoreline that is frozen, and like little pieces of ice are kind of crashing against with every wave, and you can see the waves freezing. It is a sound that you will never forget and a sight that you will never forget. But our Space Marines have never heard that sound. And I guess that like a lot of the readers wouldn't have heard that sound. I'm going to keep this in here, but if I were a better editor, I would probably cut it. Holy bells. We ain't getting back through that. Bells. Oh, yeah, I think, holy bells, we ain't getting back through that, Gunny said. Seal it off. Careful not to get poked. Heaths and Lefty locked off the breach with quick seal and vac sheet. A little of the weird fog had deposited layers of frost on their gauntlets and forearms, but they cracked it off when they flexed them. No telling what was going to happen in the shaft. Best they got away from it. Oh, yeah, this... Watch this shit. Bam! Heaths and Lefty locked off the breach with quick seal and vac sheet. Gunny hoped the Sentry Marines and the first Teardrop were smart enough to do the same. More than that, he hoped Sambone didn't decide it was time to deploy the bop gun. He could perfectly picture Sambone scowling at the weird fog and lights howling in the shaft, looking down at the bazooka in his hands. He could perfectly picture Sambone scowling at the weird fog and lights howling in the shaft, looking down at the bazooka in his hands and beginning to grin. I love that. Like, I was like, well, I got this fucking bazooka. Might as well just fire off a 77 millimeter round or 75 millimeter or whatever we said it was. Shout outs to recoilless rifles, boys. Loving it. Gunny put the thought out of his mind. Out of his mind? So he's got two? Gunny put the thought out of his mind. Sambone was going to do it or he wasn't. For all Gunny knew. For all Gunny knew, both sentries had been lanced and skeletonized by the blue witchfire. Time to shot the bop. I'm really sad to tell you that the bop gun does not make any other appearance in this story. So if you're holding out for the bop gun, they don't get to fucking use it. We'll have to write more episodes of SPACETARDS if you want to see the bop gun deployed. One nation under a groove. He turned to address the surviving Marines. Okay, boys. First priority, we gotta get back to the rats. We're on double time now. If a Marine gets got, take his tanks, Gunny said. Gunny could feel fear trying to steal its way into his voice, and he forced it down. The other Marines didn't know how bad this was. The comm had a whole folder of statistics. Now let's make it a binder. Oh, yeah, let's, For all Gunny knew, both sentries had been lanced and skeletonized by the blue witchfire. Hell yeah, good catch. Gunny could feel fear trying to steal its way into his voice, and he forced it down. The other Marines didn't know how bad this was. The comm had a whole binder full of statistics with things not to do printed on the front in thick black letters. Gunny had to memorize them all. Getting isolated from the rats brought the chance of a platoon coming home back down to... Immediately, the chance of survival dropped to 5%. 5 chucking percent. We need a natural 20, boys, Gunny said, and they all nodded solemnly. Lefty, which disc? Lefty, which disc? Gunny asked. Lefty shut his eyes and thought hard. His nose twitched as he concentrated. Both bad, Lefty decided. Gunny reached for the BCS on his belt, taking it out of its special pouch. He held the binary choice selector up, and every eye in the platoon watched him activate it. It glittered in the chem light on the way down. Tails, Gunny said, catching the BCS and flipping it onto his gauntlet. We go left. He put the coin back in its pouch, and he started wailing on the door. What he lacked in sledge expertise, he made up in desperation. Boom! So this may be like a little janky, like the BCS and so. That's exactly the type of stupid shit military people do all the fucking time, though. They love that kind of nonsense. Wait. What, weren't we just on chapter 9? Chapter 9, verse 20. There are 13 chapters. I just misnumbered them. Hell yeah. All right, I'm going to... we need to remember to edit all these things. Okay, cool. So this is actually chapter 10 right here. Good. 13 is the number of chapters that I want to have in this story. I'm really happy about that. I don't know why numbers of chapters are important to me, but they fucking are. This is very autistic of yours truly there. Shout outs to the non-neurotypical among us who care. I mean, honestly, like just the act of editing itself is a feat of monumentalism. So shout outs to everybody out there making this all possible. Hell, I'm so happy that we have 13 chapters. That's exactly what we should have. With a bunch of superstitious tards. So we have our first death. Marines who bought it in this chapter are filthy. And we lost, who do we lost? We lost Yank and Filthy. So we're down to 21 Marines remaining. And it's not looking so good for Sipper. So that's another potential. So Spathy likes BCS, very Lockheed Martin. That's so stupid. I hope I hope somebody charged the Navy like $100 million or whatever space bucks they have or like I'm sure it'll be a blowjob based economy at that point. But I hope that somebody paid like way more blowies than they should have for the BCS. It's like got a special coating or something like that. Shout out to the military industrial complex. All right there. Well, we made it through a morning of editing. What are we at time wise here? How long did we spend editing? Was it more than 2 hours? Yeah, it feels like it was a couple hours here. Well, we started at, I can just do it by the chat. So it's 10:09 right now. We started at 7:46. We did not make it. Well, we made it like a little more than 2 hours. Now, if I actually do some math right there, which I did not, I expected it to be like one of those pussy hour-long editing sessions. We wouldn't make it. So thank you to everybody who was on here, like new people that came through. And I'm really enjoying the way that this dumb story is shaping up. It's very relaxing. So thanks for your help. And I will see you again tomorrow, hopefully. Real talk. 2 hours and 30 minutes. Hell yeah. We're fucking dying.